This should be a fun one because this is a subject I come across more and more in my head lately. And since I've been thinking about it a lot, I decided it's time to talk about it and share and see if we can gather some thoughts. In this episode, I'm covering the alpha male and the beta male. The question is going to be, which one are you? And if you agree or disagree, there will be a section below for you to comment and give me your thoughts or add to the conversation, of course. Even if this is on Spotify, there's going to be a little window below where you can throw in your 2 cents or add to the conversation. This isn't going to be from like a bullying side of, this isn't going to be from a bullying perspective. This is from someone who has been on both sides of being a beta or an alpha. Starting with, obviously, when I was young, I'll just cut to the chase. When I was young, I was definitely bullied. In my neighborhood, there were groups of kids that either strength in numbers or, a lot of them got rough. And yes, I was bullied. I've been jumped. I've had shit stolen from me, pushed down, you name it. I'm sure a lot of people have been through it, but it's one thing that really affected me. Trying to go to school, but knowing there's certain kids at the bus stop that fuck with you makes it really hard. Knowing you're outnumbered makes it really hard. And, at a young age, it kind of wears on you and it makes you feel inferior and scared. And it wasn't until the day that, I finally decided to stand my ground and that I realized there's really something to that. And there's a ladder to climb up. And there's something to be said for learning how to stand up for yourself. Being an alpha, in my head, isn't necessarily just being number one in the room or being the king. It's more so not letting another male or female control who you are or what you want to be or where you're going. So my outlook is more so the traits it takes to not let others affect you. If someone is easily swayed or someone's opinions aren't their own, I consider that a beta male trait. If you follow or dick ride, I consider that a beta male trait. They're needed in this world. It's kind of like the lightness and darkness. For there to be alphas, there needs to be betas. For there to be weak, there needs to be strong. All right, so plain and simple. If you're letting somebody dictate you or influence you or push you in the direction they want you to go, and you're not standing your ground, you're already losing at that game, and you're already becoming a beta, and another man or female owns you in this respect. You're no longer going in the direction that you want to go. You're compromising. And that at the end of your life, you came into this world alone, you're leaving alone. So that's just something I feel a lot of people will regret. Now, there are times where it's okay, and maybe you have someone else's well-being or you're playing the long game, Sometimes people in races have to slow down to make it around the turn just to speed up again. That's fine. But if in all likeliness, you are allowing someone to push you in the direction that you, or opposite that you want to go, you might be a beta male. So, when I was younger, from dealing with this and, not really having much confidence and not even giving myself the chance to build respect for myself, I was afraid to look people in their eyes, shake their hands, and I was most definitely, afraid to tell people no. If I was hanging out with a group and they want to go do something I didn't want to do, it was always yes. And pretty soon, after so many yeses, you just end up in a lot of situations you don't want to be in, and you end up going in someone else's direction and not your own. So this is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about setting your own path, being your own path, and dictating your own moves. That, to me, is what an alpha stands for. Also, when I was younger, I looked up to people like Mike Tyson, Ali, I just used to see these guys that are going to go to combat with each other and not afraid to look each other in the eyes, just fearless. And you could just see it. It wasn't completely an act. It was like actual fearlessness. And I would see that and just wonder, what makes that person so sure of themselves, like an animal? There's got to be something to that instinct in there. I'd also look at people, like big businessmen, people who own businesses, and, like what traits do those guys have? How did they get there? If you're looking for self-development and how to better yourself, whether it's reading books or writing things down or practicing your hobbies, your passion, then you're working on yourself. That to me is an alpha trait. In that kind of situation, a beta will be looking for praise. They only do stuff they want other people to be proud of. They are doing things for hoping the group recognizes them, hoping that the light is shining on them. And to me, that is wanting attention from others and disregarding yourself. And that is a beta trait. As an alpha, you'll need willpower and discipline to keep going. In any situation that's tough, you'll be counting on yourself to get yourself through it. You'll be counting on discipline to constantly do it until you get to your goals. Just keep pushing. A beta male in that situation is probably just dishing out excuses as to why they can't reach the goal. Have you ever noticed football coaches or any kind of coaches in sports looking at a player and saying, "Oh, that's okay. It was his fault you didn't make the goal." Or "That's okay. It was his fault you got taken down." No. It's all about accountability and discipline and how you get better and how you solve that problem. Which brings me to the next one, is problem solving. A lot of alphas, I notice a lot of big businessmen who stay active in their business are constant problem solvers. Do you think you could build a huge company by passing problems on to others or running from problems every time you run into an issue? Do you think every business startup is smooth and easy? No, it's full of problems. And you have to be willing to put mind over matter and get through the problems to get to the next level. If you run from these problems or pass them on to other people, you're surely setting yourself up for failure. I think a beta male in that situation is probably passing problems on and running from them. Another huge trait I've noticed from many successful people is they bring people up. It's a lot of the business books you read, whether it's Dave Ramsey or Patrick Bet-David, or just even random people you see who've reached success. A lot of times once they get to the point where they have financial freedom, more time on their hands, or are fulfilled themselves, they reach their hand out and bring people up. And that to me is an alpha trait. You've made it up to the top. You've made it up to a high level. You're proud. You know where you're going. And it's time to bring people with you and help boost them. In that situation, a beta male is probably tearing people down. And they usually stay down. The type of person who's sitting across the room and is just unhappy with themselves. So they're bringing people down with them. Or they're pushing people down to make themselves feel up, which that isn't a game of advancement. That's a game of just either flatlining and staying down where they are, or there's something wrong with them internally and they're not working on the self-development I mentioned earlier to bring themselves up. And that to me is a beta male trait. These alpha male traits is how you build a leader role. You don't build a leader role by following people around or dick riding. You'll notice there's a lot of people But once they're above people, they expect dick riding. They love the praise, they love the attention, they love it all on them. And to me, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're an alpha. It just means that, going back to what I said earlier, they they like praise. They need people to fluff their ego. And if you need someone to fluff your ego, then it kind of takes away the humbleness of being like a true alpha. Do you ever see a lion or a pride of lions? Do you ever see the male or the king running around hoping everyone, is fluffing his ego? No, that motherfucker's always perched up, sitting around ready, looking around, taking in what's around him and watching his pride. He's giving the rest of his pride a sense of protection, which to me is yet another alpha male trait. If you spent all your time running around and hoping everyone gives you praise and treats you like a boss and soaking it in, and that is your true intention, that's not as much to me an alpha male trait as it is like building a group of people to fluff your ego for you, rather than being a leader in making people feel secured, that sense of protection. A true alpha male gives off this sense of protection when you're around them or to their loved ones, that sense of comfort. I think a beta male in that situation gives off a sense of being a fuckboy, where they might be walking around chest barred out, looking like the shit, talking out their ass, but there's a reason why they have to tell you that they can do all this stuff. There's a reason why they're making sure that they're an alpha male. And that reason is because they haven't proved anything and they don't really believe it themselves. They have to ensure you to ensure themselves, which goes back to the ego fluffing. And that, to me, is a beta male trait. It's not feeling based. I don't walk up to somebody and say, oh man, he hurt my feelings, I don't really like him. It's more of a respect game. There's people in this world that you may like or you may not like, or you may know they're a shitty person, but they haven't done you any wrong. They haven't come at you sideways or anything like that. So you kind of treat them mutual respect, keep them at a distance. It's when you meet them and they try to get over on you or they disrespect you, it's a mutual respect game, where if you're cool to me, or you treat me as an equal, or you treat me as a good person, that's what you get back. But if you treat me like a fuckboy, or you treat me like you want to play reindeer games, then it's a mutual respect back. And I think that alphas tend to run off of that moral, and betas tend to run off of feelings. I don't like him. He makes me feel weird. And I think a beta trait in that situation is going to be more feeling based and judging people off of feelings rather than actions. Another huge trait I want to talk about that I see in today's age, that I think alphas don't sell out. This is more of like a media-based thing, I think. But I think we've all had the friends that act one way and back one group until the other group comes around and has something to offer them, and all of a sudden they switch sides. In my eyes, an alpha never sells out. If you have a reason, or you have built self-morals, or a dichotomy to live by for yourself, you don't compromise that over goods or another person's spirit or what they have to offer you. You only compromise that for yourself, or if there's another self-development. Sometimes you have morals and rules for yourself and you retract them, you edit them, and you rebuild them. That makes sense to me. But if someone comes up to you and offers you a candy bar or says they can bring you to the promised land, and all of a sudden you switch up, that's selling out. And I don't think alphas do that. I think that's more of a beta male thing, such as social media, like chasers. Something as simple as that, as an example, would be you're not about this life. You're not about this certain brand or person or what it represents, but you'll post it to get likes, or, you'll say certain things because it's paying off for you. But that's not truly what your soul is. And that's not a true alpha trait. If you're about yourself and you're about building up your self-discipline and your self-development, you're not worried about selling out for something stupid or something clicks. Sometimes there's sacrifices, I get it, but for the most part, you're not selling your ass for candy bars out there. That goes into like alphas not being afraid of or concerned with social pressure. We just went through a couple years in the pandemic where a whole side was trying to be silenced. No matter what side you were on or not, there was a side of people trying to silence another side of people. And you just never know when that can come bite you in the ass. If you're telling someone they can't say something, or they can't provide facts, or they can't even just state their opinion or their logical outlook on things, to me that's almost like admitting you feel inferior with what the other person is saying. If the other person is not concerned with social pressure and they don't care what you think about them, let's say like someone in the jiu-jitsu, we can even make it jiu-jitsu based, like someone in the jiu-jitsu industry like Craig Jones. That motherfucker doesn't care what anyone thinks about him. He's fucking hilarious. He'll make videos and say whatever the fuck he wants to say about whoever, and watch how the other person gets all out of whack. A lot of times it pisses the other person off. It gets under their skin. Meanwhile, this dude's having a great fucking time. He's having a fucking awesome day. He made a funny ass fucking video because he was just in the mood to troll somebody, and the other person's getting mad and upset over some stupid fucking thing that some guy that they barely even know said about him or made about him. He has control over that person at that point. He's winning. So just simply by not being afraid of social pressure and being yourself, you're winning. And the game like that, just to me, even though the kind of joke is funny because he's the B team and he goes around, building his brand off of being second, to me, that is just like a true, alpha male, self-development, happy with themselves trait. This can obviously go on for a long time. I was intending on this just being a short little excerpt, just food for thought, hopefully open up a discussion. I like it when people hear these things and then they come up to me and they give me their opinion or their thoughts on things or tell me what they enjoyed about it. So I'm going to keep doing it. And as a good friend told me, no matter what side of the world you are, alpha or beta, they both need each other. They need each other to exist. And just simply, it's just how the world works. It's without one, you don't have the other. So the real question I'll leave you with is, which one are you?
I think the podcast is fucking sick. If you're listening to it and you're like, I don't know if I want to listen to the next episode of this podcast, you're probably a bitch ass. You need to listen to the next episode of this podcast and keep listening to it. Because my friends down here are trying to make shit happen. And we're going to make some shit happen.